Welcome, everyone, to the NewVision OldWays Podcast, a greatly ambitious journey of discovery where we can all learn to live better, mentally healthier, and more fulfilling lives. If you're just discovering us, feel free to go back and take the journey from the beginning. And if you're already a NewVision OldWays fan, welcome back and enjoy Season 4. And now, here is your host, Tony Marinaccio.
You are listening to NewVision OldWays, the podcast that explores timeless wisdom for the modern mind in a fun, relaxed, and most important, interactive way with you, the listener. I am your host, Tony Marinaccio, and let's get the episode started. Welcome, everyone, to another great episode of the NewVision OldWays Podcast. And this is the last episode in the Creative Thinking series. And of course, when I say last, I mean just for now. There are always subjects to touch on as we go along. And the purpose of the series has been to help us understand that we do have a creative side to us, but many times we are not using it because of confidence, because of life situations, because of depression and anxiety, or simply because we lost our motivation and settle for whatever life has thrown at us, or even just following the crowd and getting lost in that, or worse yet, pure laziness. These 5 episodes have been a journey of discovery. From episode 32 until now, I have gone over why creative thinking may be difficult for some. I have explained that there is more to creative thinking than most of us realize, and how if we utilize the tools and concepts I spoke about, we can again find that spark that can ignite our creativeness in every aspect of our lives, and how we can sustain that energy as we go along. And that is incredibly important. Keeping that energy going is key. This entire podcast is based on the idea that solutions to problems may not always be simple, but if we apply the correct concept to it, strengthen our minds, and regain our focus, the solutions will come to us and we can then move forward. But it's our willingness to see past the problem far enough to know that we will find the solutions if we put the effort in. I believe that our minds are powerful, very powerful, but it's who or what has that power and control that dictates how our minds operate. Remember, we have the ability to control every thought we have, and we have the ability to change our way of thinking, which can, of course, change our lives for the better. But as I have said in previous episodes, we have to take control of our thoughts and let that lead to taking action. But to think creatively, just to succeed in general, we must always be aware that at any time there will be forces trying to control our minds. And the more we apply the concepts that I talk about in all the episodes of this podcast, the better the chances are that we will never lose control of our minds or our thoughts ever again. With all of that in mind, if you listen to the last episode, number 35, the cautionary tale of Badfinger, we saw the dark side of being creative. And hopefully we learned the lessons that it taught us, even in everyday life. In this episode, I want to concentrate on the successful side of creativity, people who at times were battling through difficult situations, but that struggle turned into great success stories. This will be an uplifting episode that will show us that if you truly believe in what you are doing, if you persevere through the hard times and stay focused and flexible on your dream, you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. Also, stay tuned to the end because I do have a few exciting things to tell you. Do not miss that. So let's get started on episode 36, Creative Thinking, Turning Adversity into Triumph.
Sometimes your life will be in a slump, just like sports. Some of the best shooters can't hit baskets different times in games. They get in a slump. Do they sit on the sideline and say, I just didn't hit a basket today? No, they continue to execute. I suggest to you that if you are facing a challenge, don't stop. Stay busy. Work your plan. Continue to do those things that you know that work for you after you have evaluated yourself in the situation. Continue to move. Stay busy, stay busy, stay busy. Sometimes you have to just back up and go within yourself. You can't take a bow, you just can't push the arrow out. You have to pull it back and then release it. Sometimes you have to back up and go within and pray and meditate and recharge your batteries. Go away, clear your head, and then come back and look at it from a different vantage point. But if you want to begin to move into your own personal greatness, you've got to be willing to go against the tide. You've got to be willing to harness your will and say, in spite of this, I'm in control here. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm not going to let this destroy me. I'm coming back, and I'll be stronger and better because of it. You have got to make a declaration that this is what you stand for.
What a way to kick this episode off. That was the motivational speaker, Les Brown. I played that clip because I get it. We all have situations in life that can drag us down, and our ability to think creatively can suffer greatly. Believe me, I know. But it is our mind that controls what our next steps will be. We can either let the darkness take over, or we can grow through the problem and become stronger than ever on the other side. And that is what I want to concentrate on today. People that had to claw their way through what sometimes seemed like insurmountable odds and still made their dreams come true. I encourage you to research all of these people and get the full story and use what they went through to inspire you, to energize you, to push you down the path to your own dream. Let's start with the story of Marie Curie, for instance. Born in 1867, she was a Polish and naturalized French physicist and chemist. Her research was groundbreaking as she discovered radium and polonium, which, by the way, was named in honor of her native Poland. Makes sense, right? She had pioneering research into radioactivity, but along the way, she faced numerous challenges as a woman in a male-dominated scientific community. She was born in Poland under Russian control, very important. She could not attend the University of Warsaw as her brother had because the Russian government prohibited women from attending university anywhere in its empire. So she moved to Paris to continue her studies. She said at the time, quote, "It was like a new world opened to me, the world of science, which I was at last permitted to know in all liberty." That, folks, is finding what your inner self truly desires. But she faced many financial hardships, sexism, and prejudice in her pursuit of a scientific career. Her husband and research partner died in an accident in 1906. Along the way, she also faced many health issues, including cracked hands. And this occurred due to the handling of radioactive material that she frequently carried around with her bare hands. The dangers of radiation exposure was not understood at the time, and she suffered great fatigue, cataracts, and kidney issues, not to mention raising 2 daughters. Yet, despite these obstacles, Curie's creativity and genius shone through. She used creative scientific thinking to uncover new realms of physics and chemistry, and then applied critical thinking to ensure those discoveries had practical, transformative uses for medicine and society. She was the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, the first person to win a Nobel Prize twice, and the only person to win a Nobel Prize in 2 scientific fields. She was also the first woman to become a professor at the University of Paris. And also, she knew that X-rays, which had been discovered by Wilhelm Röntgen, could help to diagnose soldiers' injuries and illnesses. Despite opposition from the French military, she began procuring X-ray machines and vehicles to build a mobile X-ray service. Assisted by her daughter Irene, she created a fleet that eventually performed over 1 million X-ray examinations per year, all while watching the horrific First World War from a front seat. Marie Curie is an example of a person who believed in what she did so much that no matter what obstacle was put in front of her, she persevered through, keeping her mind focused on the important work that she was doing, not on the obstacles, of which she had many. She could have easily crumbled along the way, giving into depression and anxiety, and quite frankly, who would have blamed her? But she didn't, and she changed science forever.
If you want a glimpse of Marie Curie's manuscripts, you'll have to sign a waiver and put on protective gear to shield yourself from radiation contamination. Madame Curie's remains, too, were interred in a lead-lined coffin, keeping the radiation that was the heart of her research, and likely the cause of her death, well contained. Marie Curie's revolutionary research laid the groundwork for our understanding of physics and chemistry, blazing trails in oncology, technology, medicine, and nuclear physics, to name a few. For good or ill, her discoveries in radiation launched a new era, unearthing some of science's greatest secrets.
After Marie's death, her daughter Irene continued her parents' vital work researching radioactivity, and in 1935 won the Nobel Prize jointly with her husband for creating artificial radioactive elements. With expensive radioactive elements now being replaced with artificial alternatives, radiotherapy as a cancer treatment was able to advance much more quickly and at a significantly reduced cost. In the ultimate scientific tribute in 1944, the new element curium was named to honor the exceptional work of Marie and her husband Pierre. It was one of the first elements to be named after a scientist, though many more would follow. Marie Curie made the ultimate sacrifice, and that was her life. It was widely agreed upon that the hands-on research that she and her husband did led to their deaths, but their research did change science forever. Marie Curie, actually born Maria Slomia Sklodowska, may not be a household name, but we all owe her and her husband a big debt of gratitude for their amazing work. Let's talk about another courageous woman who stood for education and equality in the face of terrorism. If you want to see creative and critical thinking in action in the modern world, look no further than Malala Yousafzai. Malala's life is an inspiring example of how creative and critical thinking can be used to overcome the most dangerous of circumstances. Growing up in Pakistan under the rule of the Taliban, Malala was an advocate for girls' education, despite the risks involved. When the Taliban banned girls from attending school and horrifically blew up schools, Malala's creative thinking led her to start blogging for the BBC under the pseudonym Gul Mackay, sharing her experiences and advocating for education. This was a bold move in a highly oppressive environment. Later, after surviving an assassination attempt, she was not expected to survive, by the way, Malala continued her advocacy on a global scale, promoting education for girls and women's rights worldwide. Because of the violent assassination attempt on her life, Pakistan announced the creation of the very first Right of Education bill. Because of her stoic courage, perseverance, and faith in what was right, she changed policy and the lives of so many women.
It took a bullet to my head for the world to stand with me. What will it take for the world to stand with the girls and women of Afghanistan? To anyone who says they care about protecting girls and women, to anyone who says they care about education, to anyone who says they care about oppression, what are you waiting for? The case could not be clearer. Right now, millions of Afghan girls are effectively imprisoned. But they fight on, calling for justice, calling for the world to stand with them. They are the heroes the history books can teach us about. We must be their champions until they're free. Thank you.
Her critical thinking allowed her to understand that the fight for education and equality couldn't be won by violence or force, but through education, dialogue, and global awareness. By focusing on policy change and encouraging other young people to get involved, she turned her personal tragedy into a powerful force for global change. Malala combined creativity in her approach to advocacy and the use of modern technology through blogging and social media, with critical thinking about the broader social and political systems that needed to be addressed to create long-term change for girls' education. In 2014, at the young age of 17, she became the youngest Nobel Prize laureate. Like Marie Curie, she didn't let the obstacles that were clearly in her way stop her from not only realizing her dream, but changing an entire worldview on the idea that all people should receive the education they need. There is still work to be done in that area, but Malala's courage persists, and at the age of 18, she opened an all-girls school for Syrian refugees, calling leaders from around the world to provide books, not bullets. Seems simple, but in this world, it takes courage and willingness to think outside the box to even just make that simple point a reality. But Malala cannot be stopped, not even by those bullets. Amazing woman.
To run a business, yes, it helps to add up. It helps to subtract. It helps to multiply. I don't even think you need to worry about division. That's it. So, so if you can do those three things, you can run a business. If you can't do those three things, I wouldn't worry too much. You find somebody else you can, and just go out and create something that's going to make a positive difference to other people's lives.
That was billionaire Richard Branson, and he is the epitome of creative and critical thinking in action. Richard Branson, the founder of the Virgin Group, is a prime example of someone who used both creative and critical thinking to build a billion-dollar empire across multiple industries, including music, airlines, space travel, and telecommunications. While his story isn't about overcoming tragedy per se, it is based on the idea that no dream is really out of reach if you want it bad enough and are willing to take the ultimate risks. Branson's journey started with the creation of Virgin Records at the age of 20, and since then he's taken calculated risks, challenged the status quo, and creatively approached industries that were ripe for disruption. His willingness to think outside the box, such as launching Virgin Atlantic in an already competitive airline industry, shows his ability to creatively envision a company that would focus on customer experience and service in ways that the competitors were neglecting. Branson also demonstrates critical thinking in how he continuously adapts to market changes, diversifying the Virgin Group and ensuring that each new venture complements and enhances his brand's core values. His ability to pivot, respond to challenges, and keep his eye on both the long-term vision and the short-term solutions is a hallmark of his success. His ability to creatively disrupt industries with both ideas and then apply strategic, critical thinking to grow and adapt those ventures has allowed him to build an extraordinarily diverse and successful empire. Branson is known for his willingness to venture into new territories and challenge conventional wisdom. He embraces innovation and encourages creative thinking to drive growth and development. I bring him up for another reason. His ability to show his love of adventure at every turn is another lesson we can all learn from. While business can be difficult and failure can loom around every corner, Richard Branson shows us that if you do what you love, risk becomes opportunity, even with failure. If a venture fails, he is often running with the new and exciting venture to take its place. Life is to be lived. Work can be adventurous if you let it. No matter what kind of work it is, it's all in your attitude and your mindset. Let's hear a bit more from Mr. Branson about another kind of adventure he had.
You signed the Rolling Stones back in the day. Have you got any sort of nights out that you remember, or was it just you and Mick and Keith having a cup of tea?
No, I don't think they know how to have cups of teas. I'm not sure I can say on a radio, but I think the first ever spliff that I smoked was rolled by Keith Richards in the Manor in Oxfordshire, and he taught me how to roll the spliff. So, on that same occasion, I was sitting in front of the fire of the Manor. Keith was misbehaving somewhere, and there was this big banging on the front door. And I went to the front door and I opened the door. There was this enormous guy standing there, and he had a gun in his hand, which in England, obviously, people don't have guns in their hands. And I said, hey, wait a minute, what do you want? And he went, I've come to kill Keith Richards. And I said, well, why have you come to kill Keith Richards? He said, because he's in your house with my wife. And I said, look, I'm sure you're mistaken. And then as I was talking to him, I saw a naked Keith Richards and a naked wife running behind him across the lawn. So I said to him, look, I promise you he's not in the house with your wife. Put the gun down and you can go and search the house. And He searched the house, he came back, he apologized profusely, he left, and then about an hour later, a Keith Richards, a naked Keith Richards came back into the house without the wife. Anyway.
A wonderful tale from the adventures and the playful success of Richard Branson to someone that was responsible for ushering in one of the biggest cultural changes in history. We are about to dive into a time in history when a single voice, a revolutionary sound, and a poor kid from Tupelo, Mississippi changed the way an entire generation was heard.
Elvis Presley has to be one of the most outstanding people that it's been my pleasure to meet in my lifetime. After listening to his voice, seeing his demeanor, his manner, and what I thought was a very different style, I was highly impressed with what I thought he could do as an artist. And regardless of what happened to Elvis in his latter years, he had one of the strongest souls and spirits about him of any person I've ever seen. Well, you say you had something to do with the guy being on the scene. Sure as hell did. Sure did. But you have to keep in mind what we were doing at Sun Records with Elvis Presley. And so it turned out that Elvis was a great catalyst for all of the things that we did at Sun. But you had to have a feeling that this man had the strength and the worth within him to go on and to go on and to go on until we made it, or by golly, we didn't make it. It is no mystery at all to me that the man has become the biggest thing in the history of entertainment. I know that some of you may differ with me. When you have the things that have been said about Elvis Presley, bad, good, indifferent, and you survive them as if you were a duck in a fresh pond, there's got to be something in your soul, in your spirit, that you have left along the way, because you're not going to sustain yourself head and shoulders above practically anybody I've ever known in the entertainment business. And I'm not biased about it, and have it go on year in, year out, year in, year out, worldwide. Try that one on for size.
That was Sam Phillips, the man responsible for bringing Elvis Presley to the world. Born in 1935 to Vernon and Gladys Presley, his twin brother Jesse was stillborn. His family lived in a two-room shack built by Vernon until they lost that home when Vernon became incarcerated for forging bad checks. Elvis and his mother bounced around from family member to family member until Vernon got out and was able to find some sort of work again. There was very little evidence at that time when Elvis was that young that he would eventually take the world by storm in the 1950s, not just with his groundbreaking music, but with a cultural influence that turned the young generation into a force to be reckoned with, one that had the power to reshape the economy, impact political movements, and most importantly, find its voice. In the early 1950s, youth culture was mostly silent, a mere echo of the adult-driven norms that dominated society. But then came television and Elvis Presley. The two combined for what they called the Big Bang. Everything changed. The youth generation, for the first time in history, actually had something of their own to represent them. Every guy wanted to be Elvis. Every girl wanted to be with Elvis. No one had ever seen anything like this before. The older generation knew the cat was out of the bag and it wasn't going back in. Although they tried. They tried everything they could to get him banned. They tried death threats. They threatened jail time. And some feel drafted him to get his devil hips out of sight for good. But Elvis was too good. And when he came back from the military service in 1960, he sounded better than ever. They not only couldn't stop him, he just got bigger and bigger, becoming the biggest star in the world and one of the most famous humans in history. All that from a dirt poor kid in Mississippi. Elvis was the American dream come true, personified. Although it didn't end well for him personally, the world was never the same because of him. Elvis didn't invent rock and roll, but what he did was even more significant. He changed the way an entire generation of young people thought. the way they dressed. He changed their economic power. He changed their political power. He gave them a voice. And every young person that wants their voice heard owes a bit to Mr. Presley. Someone had to kick in the door, and not only did he kick it down, he paved the way for everyone that was different from the norm. He gave confidence and inspiration to millions that if a poor kid from the South can change the world, so could you.
He was just amazing and spectacular, and it was just that he really opened the door to my whole love of music. And because of him, and because of the choice of his material, I found out Smiley Lewis, I found all those great singers, and now all these box sets that come out, some of the stuff that he did in the 60s and was quite so well crafted.
Yeah.
Hank Garland's guitar playing, the stuff at RCA in Nashville, I mean the recording of it, and his humor in the middle of it all is great. So it was a dream come true to meet him, but it was also just by chance that I heard him and it affected me the way it did. And from Elvis straight through to the Tuareg guys in Timbuktu, it's a straight line.
Yeah.
It curves a bit, but the blue note is there all the way through my life. It's just calling to me.
Well, and I think that's the thing, that the more time that goes by, the easier it is for people to get confused about how important Elvis's moment was, because because there's always the feeling that, well, they're not giving enough credit to Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Little Richard and so on, which is true.
Right.
But Elvis rearranged the mainstream. If Elvis hadn't taken it from How Much Is That Doggy in the Window and turned it into this is mainstream popular music, then Little Richard and Chuck Berry and Jerry Lee Lewis would not have had the opportunity to get through it all.
Sure, and he was also white, which was
that's right.
crucial, because that gave him the foot in the door that maybe Alan Freed was trying to do with Chuck and Bo and all that sort of stuff. But he was, and he was a great-looking guy, and he actually, that physical representation, by the time he got to England, guys would like hit themselves on the head, bang, what's going on? Who's this human being? It was fantastic in the middle of all that crap. There was one shining star, and then of course you get exposed to, Bo Diddley, the man, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just, as you say, in the dark with my radio.
So
That was Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin, and how he describes what Elvis meant to his generation is incredible. I highly recommend watching that interview on YouTube. Just type in Robert Plant, Elvis, and it'll come up for sure. It is great stuff. Or you can visit my favorite podcast, the Rock and Roll Archaeology Project, especially their episode number 2, Elvis and the Rise of Television. That entire podcast is fantastic, but that particular episode highlights that big bang that occurred with Elvis and television. And you know what? Some chastise Elvis for what they think is stealing black music. But as we all are, we can easily be a product of our environment. One must realize that he grew up as poor as could be, and he was around black music from day one, hung out in black churches, and admired and respected everything the black culture had to offer. But it was a part of him, too. When he sang Good Rockin' Tonight in the 50s, he knew exactly what that song really meant to people that struggled every day. But on a Friday night or a Saturday night, it was let it all hang out time. And the rockin', or sex that was really about, was a moment of joy and relief to people that maybe didn't have a lot of joy in their lives in the first place. And that song was real, just like Elvis. He persevered through hard times, knew that he had something to offer, and boy, did he ever. From the boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, to the inventor of the ages, let's take a look at the incredible Nikola Tesla. He was a brilliant inventor, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, and physicist. He is often now celebrated as one of the most creative minds in history. His work laid the foundation for much of modern electrical engineering, yet his life was filled with both groundbreaking success and tragic struggles. Tesla's ability to merge creative thinking with critical problem solving can teach us a lot about how much innovation happens even under challenging circumstances. Tesla's creative genius wasn't just about creating new technologies. It was about envisioning entirely new ways of thinking about and using energy. Many of Tesla's most famous inventions, including the development of alternating current, AC, power, and the induction motor, and wireless transmission of energy, came from his ability to think far beyond the boundaries of his time. He saw what others couldn't imagine. Tesla wasn't constrained by the norms of his time. He saw the potential for innovation where others saw limitations. This kind of out-of-the-box thinking is central to the creative process. Whether you are inventing new technology or finding new solutions to everyday problems. Tesla's life wasn't all smooth sailing. Like Marie Curie, he too faced many financial hardships. Criticism from his peers, struggled with personal health problems. He suffered from a severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, insomnia, intense concerns about his cleanliness and germs. These also led to a difficult time relating to people. But throughout these distractions, he amazingly maintained an extraordinary level of focus on his work, demonstrating critical thinking even when life seemed chaotic. His critical thinking allowed him to focus on the bigger picture, prioritizing long-term innovation over immediate rewards. That is knowing what your real, heartfelt end goal is. And when you know that, all struggles seem as if they were just part of the plan. Now, his work is revered for laying the foundation for modern electrical engineering and power generation. His Tesla coil is used in radio technology, X-ray generation, and high-voltage applications. His contributions to remote control, fluorescent and neon lighting, and wireless communications changed the entire world and how we live. Tesla passed away in 1943, but his research and innovations will have changed the world forever. Remember the "one man cannot change the world forever" saying? Well, he did. Creativity is often romanticized. We think of great artists in lofts, innovators in labs, entrepreneurs in big skyscraper offices making deals, but real creativity, the kind that changes lives, that often comes when your back is against the wall. People who faced rejection, poverty, isolation, and even incarceration turn those struggles into the raw material for brilliance. These are not fairy tales. These are blueprints for how to rewire your mind when the world tells you no. How to use the limitations as fuel and how to get scrappy, resourceful, and radically inventive. There is something beautiful, even sacred, about moments when everything seems stacked against you and you keep going anyway. There's a great quote from Ryan Holiday, author of The Obstacle is the Way. And he says, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path. Never forget, within every obstacle is an opportunity to improve our condition." Another way to look at all of this is that every mountain climbed builds muscle. Every rejection letter teaches us to refine our message. Every failure forces us to dig deeper, ask harder questions, and get clear about what we really want. We live in a culture obsessed with ease, fast success, quick hacks, life on demand, but the truth? Anyone who has actually created something meaningful, whether it's a business, a book, a song, a movement, will tell you that the real growth happens in the difficult moments. I have, in various episodes, talked about my own struggle in life at times. And those were dark times. And I can assure you, it's true. Those dark times may have been unwelcomed and, of course, cried over, but they certainly put me on paths that I would have never been on otherwise. And in turn, I have experienced wonderful things and moments I never thought possible. Having a creative mind can be just about getting through life in ways others are just too scared to try. Get in touch with your inner self. Find that passion for what you truly love, and don't let others steal that joy by putting your dream down. Remember, it's your dream, not theirs. It's your mind, not anyone else's. I hope these 5 episodes have inspired you to begin your creative thinking journey. It will make your life better and more fulfilling. Use the techniques I have discussed and let me know how you got those creative juices flowing. What worked for you, and any new ideas I didn't touch on that may help us all. I hope you enjoyed this series. I know I had a blast bringing it to you. So, at the beginning of this episode, I hinted at a few exciting announcements, and well, here they are. First, I am almost through building the new NewVision OldWays website. It will be all the things that the NewVision OldWays podcast represents. The episodes will be there. There is a blog and news section. And most importantly, it will grow with us. Even though it is still under construction, you could visit the site at newvisionoldways.com. I am still tweaking this and that, but it is well on its way, and new episodes will be there as they drop. I am very excited about this, and feel free to let me know what you think so far. I am admittedly not a website builder, and I'm learning every day, but your input is welcomed. As this venture is about all of us, I would love it if you contribute to it as well. The next announcement. Well, I will be attending the podcast event in Dallas in August. The event is the Podcast Movement, and I would love to meet and chat with my listeners and possible future guests. It will be a great event, and I am looking forward to it. I can't wait, actually. It will be awesome. I will give a repost on the event in the blog section of the website, along with a special episode highlighting the entire event. And lastly, folks, it is the 1-year anniversary of the NewVision OldWays podcast. And I have to say that I cannot believe how this has grown. I have done no real marketing, no real advertising, and it still has grown bigger than I could have hoped for. And I cannot thank each of you enough for listening, for supporting both the show and myself. This has been a true labor of love. There is no stopping it now. And I want to not only grow this show, but as I have said before, many other show ideas are in development, and I can't wait to bring them to you. They will be diverse for sure, dare I say, almost Richard Branson-like, right? We'll see, but that's the idea anyway. Again, thank you so much for the love and support. I appreciate it so very much. Wow, that was a lot, I know. What a show. So what did you think of this episode or any of the episodes? I would love to find out. And here is where to get a hold of the show and let us know. These are in the show notes, but as always, here they are. There is a link that you could click on that will allow you to donate to the show and show your support. By donating what you can, it will allow me to book guests and cover costs. Anything will help. And of course, you can cancel anytime. You can also message the show from each episode on your various platforms. Just look for the send us a text message link. If that doesn't work for you, you can email us at newvisionoldways@gmail.com. And that's again, newvisionoldways@gmail.com. And by the way, folks, that will be part of the contact page in the new website. So look for that. And you can also find us on what was Twitter, now X, at NewVision OldWay. No S on the end of that one. At NewVision OldWay. Check out the NewVision OldWays YouTube channel. Just type in NewVision, one word, OldWays, one word, and please subscribe. It is free and will show support for the show. It really means a lot and will help the show grow on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. Same thing. NewVision, one word, OldWays, one word, podcast, and you should easily find us. And as a reminder, I always say this, these are growing platforms for us and expanding all the time, especially with the new website. So we need your help to get the flow going with the community. And last but not least, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to us, like us, follow us, leave a review on whatever platform you found us on, that would be so appreciated. That will also help me secure guests that we will be booking in the future. So, welcome to season 4. I have a lot to cover still this season. We're only halfway through, so thank you for listening. I cannot wait to get your input. I also cannot wait until we get together for the next episode of NewVision OldWays. Until then, stay true to yourself, stay informed, and stay empowered. And here's to year number 2.
But the most important thing is,
This episode and all the episodes of NewVision OldWays Podcast have been written, engineered, and produced by Tony Marinaccio and TKM Productions.